What? Can you hear me now? Am I there? Am I here?
Yes, yes. The
What a
mic's
great
well.
start to the new year, ladies and gentlemen. Brilliant. Okay, so look, right. Let's sort out this mess. First things first, that intro was wrong. That's my fault. I gave Bobby the wrong file. Secondly, I hope you can all hear me now. So let's get on with the script. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are. I'm Jim Bojo. Welcome to Going Critical. Happy New Year. I hope you've had a brilliant holiday period. We are back and we've shaken things up a little bit. Hope you enjoy the new format. We're going to try and blast through the intros this time so you don't have to sit around listening to me yak forever. So first up, I'm going to introduce the panel so you know who's here. Then we're going to say hello to our guest and blast off in just a couple of ticks. So first of all, we've got Carissa Brock. Sorry, hello, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well.
Brilliant. I'm glad you could join us. And look, she's on camera. She's joined us. Woo! Yay. Thank you very much. Cool. And next up, Robert Leger the third. Okay, Robert Leger the third, pulling the levers, pressing the buttons, and making the whistles bell. Hello, mate. How you doing?
The Nas, how are you?
The Nas, I'm doing grand, man. Thanks for joining us. Ponky, hello, sir. How are you doing today? The kids asleep?
Do you want an honest answer? Yeah, they're asleep.
Sweet. Well, look, it's good to see you, man. Thanks for coming once again. Next up, we've got Zapostate. Hello, buddy. How are you doing today?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Woo, cool. Thanks for coming. Who else have we got? Pete Baru. We got a new panelist. How are you doing, mate? Thank you for joining the team. Well, that's a long yawning silence. Have we lost him? Or is he just muted?
Here we go.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Just got done watching my terrible movie of the week.
Oh, that was good fun. I couldn't stick around for all of it, unfortunately, but from what I saw, it's brilliant. It was a Bela Lugosi movie. We worked with Ed Wood later. So honestly, everyone, get over there, watch it. The guy's a genius. He may have been addicted to heroin, but he was an amazing actor. Let's see what else have we got. Now, Tony's going to have to join us in a little bit. Unfortunately, he's still in the process of traveling, but he's light speeding it over the Atlantic as we speak now. So he's going to be with us pretty soon. And of course, I'm Jim Bojo. You know who I am. I talk to people. So, and my cat doesn't debunk flirts because unfortunately he's been crushed under the wheels of an 18-wheeler and he's not coming back. Sorry about that. Let's see. Next night. First of all, we're just going to go straight to the new creator. I'm going to turn to Bobby because I think you've got the video all lined up for us. It's Gary Isle of Wight this week, and we think he's a bit of a legend. He needs a lot more subs, so please go over there and watch. Here's a little video to let you know what he's all about from Tony.
Gary Isle of Wight.
Oh, hi, Jim. Yeah, I'm on my way to the Statue of Liberty. I've heard some rumors, and I'm going to check it out. That's why I can't be with you all this week, because I'm doing that. But the creator for the week is Gary Io. He is not your average, what we've been presenting here of late. He's a vlogger and a musician. Writes his own music and presents it. He makes videos about as often as I do. It's pretty intermittent, but it gives you a look into his life and what he does and what he enjoys. I think it's pretty interesting most of the part, and his songs aren't all that bad either. So, take a look at what I put together for you and see if it's something for you. Oh, one more thing before I forget. This video is just a little bit longer than usual because he's written a song, or him and his brother had written a song, and I believe it has a very special place in his heart because it was the last song he and his brother could make together. And I've put in some cuts of various other videos from him in it, but playing the song in its entirety. I hope he likes it, and I hope you do too. So, up to the video.
How do you feel taking all those pills? So how does it feel taking different colored pills? Does it make you feel good? Does it make you Does it make you fly high? Does it take you sky high out of your mind? It's just a trip. You've been traveling most of your life. It's just a perfect state of mind. So how do you feel when you're coming down, my man? How do you cope when you ain't got no hope? Do you wanna scream out? Do you wanna give out? Can you take much more? Your mind's messed up, you can tell night from day. Maybe someday you'll find a better way.
You see, it's multi-system organ failure due to resuscitated pulmonary arrest due to mixed drug toxicity. And fentanyl and various forms of fentanyl are listed after that. And there is a line that says, based on the history, circumstances, and autopsy, as currently known, the manner of death is accident. So that is something that is now official. And when you take a look at this man, this legend, this music icon, he passed away October 2017, just last year, at the age of 66 years old. And his family had confirmed that the cause of death was accidental prescription drug overdose.
I hope you like that. I'm here now, so I'm going to go up and check it out. The rumor was that the Statue of Liberty is crying. By the way, it's just Americans are now going against everything that it stood for when it was built. You know, give me your poor, you're tired, you know, all that. Now it's, get the hell out of here. See you next week.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. Right now, I think in the midst of that song and flying in at high speed, we have a certain Mr. Anthony Bailey. Hello, mate. You there? How are you doing?
Hey, how's it going? Yeah,
Hey, man.
It was damn cold in New York, I can tell you that.
Yeah, this time of the year, man, it's no place for the Isles. Well, look, that was a brilliant video you put together and a touching tribute. I would encourage everybody watching to get over to Gary IOW or Gary Isle of Wight's channel now. The guy's got like 75 subscribers, which is ridiculous. He does amazing content, great songs. Get over there now. Right, time to introduce the guest. He's back on the show. He's going to make us look a bit more professional, hopefully. ETC, formerly known as End the Conspiracy. Hello, mate. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Jim. How are you guys?
Oh, I'm great. Look, thank you very much for joining us today. Look, normally I would wait a little bit longer for this, but I'm going to say the same thing. Get over to EDC channels now and subscribe, right? I was in his Hangout, his show. He does one every week. It's fantastic. He's changed the style a little bit in the format. He's going more into the content. I think it's a real good change. So you need to get over there and have a look now. I think it's time we crack on with the show, though. What do you think, guys? Yeah?
Sounds good to me. Let's go.
Fantastic stuff. All right. Well, look, in that case, we got a huge list of media and we're going to cover a whole bunch of subjects today. So I think, first of all, I'm going to go straight into, let's see. Now, Carissa Brook, you've been looking into some archaeological stuff recently, and apparently they found some sort of Mayan palace buried out in, was it South America? Why don't you tell us a little bit about it? And before you do, Bobby, I think you've got a little video to play, right?
Absolutely.
Sweet.
archaeologist in Guatemala on Thursday announced the discovery of the grave of an ancient Mayan king, credited with setting the foundation for the Mayan civilization. Researchers from Guatemala uncovered the grave of the priest who reigned around 700 BC at the dig site in western Guatemala.
This is particularly important because it corresponds to a very crucial time from 700 to 400 before Christ in the history of Takalikabaj. This time span is precisely the epoch when we find other data, like in sculpture or architecture, that Takalikabaj is undergoing an ideological change from the Olmec worldview to the early Mayan worldview.
Historians believe that the king was the first leader to implement aspects that defined Mayan culture, such as building pyramids instead of square structures and carving sculptures that profiled royal families. Scientists discovered the grave in June, but it has taken until now for experts to verify that it belonged to the king. Although no human remains were found at the site, the carbon-dated artifacts suggest that the king was buried between 770 and 510 BC.
Okay, right. Well, I think that's a fascinating little clip to give us a taste of what you want to talk about. Carissa, why don't you lead us straight on in?
Okay, well, on December 24th of this past year, the Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History announced the news that they uncovered an ancient Mayan palace near the historic city of Coluba in the Yucatan state. And it stands 55 meters long, 15 meters wide, and 6 meters high. They found stairways, pilasters, which are ornamental pillars, and a basement at the site. It was occupied in two different periods. The first period that was occupied was between 600 and 900 CE, and again in the Terminal Classic period, which was 800 to 1050 CE. Let's see. It was really interesting because of the size of the current archaeological dig that's happening there. And what got me the most was not just the size and the amount of currently covered and being uncovered structures there, but they're actually talking about doing reforestation around the outer sides of the site in order to protect the buildings.
Oh,
so,
cool.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
it's a cool dig.
Absolutely. Now, I think I was right in hearing this in the vid. Basically, they said this was like an important milestone because it sort of marked the time period where they went from building buildings, which are basically square, cubic buildings, mud hut style, not huts, but you know what I mean, simple buildings, to starting the process of building taller and more stepped pyramids. Is that right?
Yes, it did actually mark it marked the changeover, and the clip that you played was from the discovery of the priest that they it was the king actually that they discovered his in 2012. That his reign time period was the marker in between those two eras. And so he was directly associated with this area based on his era. Yeah. I can't talk right now. I'm sorry. I have a 3-year-old right now who's currently trying to get my attention. So.
Oh, don't you worry. Well, actually, there's one other thing, because now one of the things it said in the clip is there were no human remains found. And I wasn't sure when I was checking through if this was specifically because they didn't expect there to be, or because the amount of time you're looking at. I mean, it is such a long period now that you wouldn't necessarily expect any remains to still be around. Now, is that what the case is, or is it because this wasn't, because it's a burial mound essentially, isn't it? Is that right?
The one
Oh,
that
well,
the
not a burial mound. Sorry, it's because it's a palace. What I mean to say is that
it's
you would
house.
expect there to have been people buried there. It's just that you wouldn't expect to be able to find them now. I was a bit confused over this, so I thought I might ask.
Oh yeah, no, you're good. No, as far as the dig goes itself, they were able to find a lot of things that they weren't expecting to find.
Okay.
They found a let's see. There was one part in here. So they found ceramic materials found in the region suggest that Kaluba became an Itzuk enclave, which
Mhm.
my brain is completely off the mark right now. I looked that up. Um, but it had a very significant, really.
Well, it seems to be quite a significant sort of archaeological dig. Not only does it mark a sort of a shift in the sort of the building styles, clearly, but there's a sort of a cultural shift. It's almost it's a bit like the point where the Mayan culture suddenly began to spring up much more quickly, like its growth began to accelerate. Everyone who knows anything about the Mayan culture recognizes these huge stepped pyramids and a really ornate, complex culture. They were good astronomers, and they had a sort of a historical marker. And this seems to be a sort of a turning point where they went from a relatively minor, agrarian, fairly unsophisticated society to suddenly start this massively accelerated growth towards a big society with lots of complex things going on. Did I misunderstand that? I think that's what it was saying, right?
Oh no, you're very right. And the Itza enclave basically it means it became a suburb of Chichen Itza. So it became an extension of like the metropolis in this era. So the fact that they found a palace that could easily house 100 elites at one time, very very comfortably, with such a massive scale. It's a crazy place, and there's a temple there that goes up to 80 meters high, which to put in perspective is as tall as a 24-story building and 9/10 the size of the Statue of Liberty. So it's a huge place.
That is enormous. I mean, we all know that sort of various ancient historical cultures have managed to do some fairly impressive stuff building-wise. But the Mayans have always been fascinating to me because they were so sophisticated. I mean, granted, it's not like they'd invented electricity or anything, but using the sort of their fairly stone/Bronze Age equipment that they had really complex jewelry, they had education systems, they had like a complex cultural how would you say it? A cultural system, which meant an interchange. So it wasn't just individual groups of people. They began to be much more societal at this time. I think they found a headdress, which was, I forget if it was denotation of rank, but whatever it was like this incredibly ornate piece of jewelry or attire that they built. Everything around this period is fascinating. Now, if you look in the description, people watching, you'll see that I've got a huge list of links to all of the different things. And there's a link, firstly, to the article that we drew as our source material. There's a couple of images in there as well. I recommend anyone who's interested in archaeology at all to sort of get along to these things and have a read, because once I started reading the first article, it led me onto a second, which led me onto a third. And before long, I was losing hours about this stuff. And
It's a definite rabbit hole.
Right? I mean, most people who know anything about the Mayans know about the long count calendar and the 2012 prediction, but there is so much more to this. It is extraordinary. Did anyone else have any thoughts on this? Did anyone else have a chance to read through the article? Or?
I just think I did hear about this briefly in the news. I read it on my phone as well. I think it's just crazy how even today we still have not found everything, even at the surface of our planet, that is to be found, much less the actual things that we do have to dig for. And I just think that that's wildly exciting. And we always, what you were talking about with the ornate jewelry, and like I think our modern average humans make a huge mistake of thinking that all these ancestral societies and things that we have discovered, that they were all cavemen, that they were just rudimentary beings with stone huts and stuff. These people had tools, they made products, they had societal structures. It's
Absolutely.
like you said, maybe they didn't develop the infrastructure on a mass scale, look like electricity and roadways and things like that we have today. But short of that, we can't say that they didn't have just about everything else that we have, minus like
Absolutely.
automobiles and things like that. But they had horses, they had carts, they had boats.
That's it. Complex hierarchical structure, politics, education, loads of the stuff that we recognize in a modern society. Like, people seem to think that until the Industrial Revolution came along, people were basically just like
Neanderthals.
simple,
Yeah.
know? And the other thing that sprung to mind about this, I wonder if any of you guys have ever seen one of those documentaries where it says, what would happen if humans disappeared? Yeah, because like in 100 years,
I have seen that.
everyone-
They had a whole series about it.
Yeah.
right? And like 1,000 years from now, the only way you'd even know roads existed would be if you did sort of like geophysical surveys and you'd find these long sort of ribbons of tar. It'd be, 1,000 years from now, society as we know it could just be erased from the surface of the earth if people weren't there
Oh.
to maintain it.
They
We're
said
talking about
within-
a period. Go on.
I'm sorry, man. They said within a couple hundred years, the only thing that would
Now, is it
be
just
wrecked
me
in
or did
heavy
Bob-
metals.
That's it. Bobby, you
Okay.
froze out for me for a minute there. Am I the only
Yeah.
one? Yeah,
No.
say that again,
Yeah,
man.
you locked up.
All right, I said, in the thing I saw, it said within a matter of a couple hundred years, the only thing recognizable from our existence would be stone structures like the pyramids and maybe Mount Rushmore, things like that. But all your buildings and things like that, aside from heavy metals like skyscraper structures and things like that, would be mostly withered and dust by then,
Absolutely.
without
Well,
any
this
up.
is what people forget. Most of these huge skyscrapers that we think about, they're steel frames with glass around the outside. And steel doesn't actually last that long unless you maintain it. Stone buildings will last thousands of years, but the steel structure of a skyscraper will collapse really fast. A car left by the side of the road would be gone in less than 100 years, just melted away to nothing, unless it's an arid environment. It would just disappear. And we look back at these time periods 2, maybe 3,000 years ago, and it shouldn't be surprising that we keep finding new stuff because we dig down and suddenly it's like, oh crap, there's miles of streets and there's all of this tech that managed to get just about preserved under the rock. There's so much left to find that we don't know about. Archaeology is actually, despite the fact it's dealing with thousands of year old stuff, it's like a really up-to-date science that constantly keeps finding out new things, right?
Well, these are all jungle finds too, with the Mayans and stuff. So, and that we have not studied and searched the jungles in anywhere near their entirety. There's all kind of stuff still there to be found, and
Well,
there's
still
going to be
tribes
stuff
out there,
found.
right?
Yeah,
still
I'm
actual
sure of it.
Yeah. Oh man, that's awesome. Well, look, Carissa, is there anything else you wanted to add to this subject before we move on to the next one?
Anybody?
No, you guys covered a lot of what I was going to talk about too, because like you said earlier, when people hear Maya, they go straight to the Mayan calendar and the doomsday and all of that. They don't understand the complex social structure that they had. And we're just now getting to the point where we can start to understand it after decades and decades of research. And we're not even at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to learning everything that happened. And we probably won't because of how long ago it was. And with the science now pushing back the beginning of human history to nearly 300,000 years, which is way farther back than what we'd ever thought humans could ever be in existence, in our state that we are, that
Absolutely.
you're not going to be able to cover that full amount, but just being able to learn enough to know that their society and the way that they dealt with things were just as complex as ours, just their technology was different.
Yeah. Well, now look, for those watching and listening, if you've got any comments or questions that you want to get to the team, do the usual at Going Critical. Today, that's going to be Carissa, so she's going to get anything that you've got to say to us. Now, Carissa, is there anything that you've noticed in the chat just far that you wanted to raise?
No, other than apparently there's a heavy a love of Rome from some people.
Glory of Rome.
Yeah, I was about to say I'm not going to mention any names, but you just outed yourself.
For the glory of Rome.
Brilliant. All right, well, look, thank you very much indeed, Carissa.
Another great ancient civilization, the Romans, man.
Oh yeah. Again, I mean, this is it. Every time you find out about these civilizations and you actually start looking into it, most people think they know the Romans. You know, they had a decent army, they had some politics, it was quite complex. And you actually go into it and you realize, Jesus, every single detail of their lives was almost as complicated as ours. The fact they
Absolutely.
didn't have electricity doesn't mean their lives weren't every bit as difficult, complicated, riven
Have you
by the
seen
worries of politics. You know.
have you seen the water systems that they developed?
Oh
The
man.
aqueduct systems,
You're
yes.
talking about 100-mile gradient of point 0.01 to keep the drop on your
Absolutely.
irrigation systems, and they were able to do irrigation systems up to sometimes 40, 50 miles away from water sources using stone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And
And
look at
they're
the roads.
yeah, that's
Go
what
on.
I was going to say. The roads too. There's actually a meme on Facebook that had the same. You know, it was on top is the Roman roads and showing. You know, they dug down, they did different layers of rock. These things are still around. You
Right.
know, thousands of years later, and our roads that the engineers made up. You got potholes within 10 years. The things
Well,
are
that's the
trash.
problem. You used engineers. That's
Well, there's back there. Ours are built in the idea of efficiency and cost. You know, if
Yeah.
we could
Yeah.
throw down brick roads going everywhere, we would. But
Mhm.
Yeah.
the cost
Well,
doesn't matter,
actually,
and the sheer scale. Like, I don't imagine the
Yeah.
Romans laying cross-country interstates in blocks. They do it, but
oh yeah.
Given
it's a
I
enough
should
lot of
point
time.
rock.
out, now Port Punky and I both come from the British Isles, as you're aware. He's from one end and I'm from the other. He's from Scotland, I'm from the West Country. And there are Roman roads which connected where I live, 600 miles away, to where he lives. And they were so good that a lot of the roads we have now, they just built them over the top. Like
Oh,
there's
shit.
one section of road in this country that's about 40 miles long, straight as an arrow and completely level. And the reason is because they built it over the top of a Roman road because they didn't bother going around the hills. They just carved their way straight through the
Straight through that
countryside.
shit, right? Absolutely.
It's very true.
Get 1,000 men out here with some shovels. Let's get on it.
Now, am I right in thinking Hadrian's Wall was actually built by the Romans as well? The argument was to keep the Scots out, but in reality, it probably was to keep the Romans in,
Well,
rather like the Great Wall.
You
there's
can't
two.
keep
There's
you can't keep
the
you can't keep Scots out of anything.
No, no chance.
there's the Hadrian's Wall and there's the Enstone Wall. There's two of them, and they're still
Yeah.
there. They're a bit messed up now, but they
Oh.
look more like a sort of grassy mound. But parts
They're
of them
there.
still exist. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, you could
Actually,
probably fix them up with a few thousand dudes.
sure.
Let's get
One
1,000
part of the
men out
reason
here.
they're not even there is not because they wore away because of the weather, but because people stole the bricks to make buildings out of. You know, it's like the Great Wall. If people hadn't stolen the masonry to make little, you know, their homes and stuff like that, there's every chance most of that wall would still be intact now.
I think Marvel Girl has just said that the Romans built the dome.
Oh yeah, the Millennium Dome. It's obviously millennia old. Yeah. Okay, well, look, I think that's brilliant. Thank you very much indeed for bringing that, Chris. I've been fascinated all week reading into that stuff. I think it's about time that we cracked onto the next topic. Now, this is my one. I'm not going to spend too long on this because actually I don't want to give this guy too much airtime. But you all know him and hate him. It's Alex Jones. Bobby, do you think you can stick up the next video for me?
Next video.
That fucking face.
Hitler took the guns. Stalin took the guns. Mao took the guns. Fidel Castro took the guns. Hugo Chavez took the guns. And I'm here to tell you, 1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms.
Satanic rituals, royal family. Mainstream news, folks. Anthony Weiner is going to be investigated for child porn on his phone and contacting minors.
You're watching the Sunday Positives. We have an idiot in the program today.
If you're a new listener to stop the Pentagon tested gay bomb on Iraq, they didn't consider using it. They've used it on our troops. I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
Mr. Jones,
Yeah, there it is. Right.
Oh God.
Yeah. And there's
It's like the worst level of evangelical preacher on the pulpit of crazy. It's just.
If you
Oh,
watch
man.
Alex Jones's progression, this is a dude that just got caught up in it. You know,
Yeah.
he started getting attention for it and just took it to the extreme. Because with your next video, for instance, if you catch him outside of his show, he's not that extreme. But on camera, the man is an absolute lunatic. He will say whatever he has to say to cultivate the next week's worth of material. And
Yeah.
Before people started cracking down on that kind of fake news and misinformation, he was killing it, and he
Oh
wasn't
yeah.
the only one.
Yeah, it
I
makes
gotta say,
money.
it was so hard to find those clips to piece together because YouTube's cancelled his channel and no one wants to support him anymore. Every time you look for a video, it's
He's done.
someone speaking against him. It's not his video at all. That was quite tricky. Now, the second video that I want to show, the reason I brought this up and the reason it's not going to be quick is it's going to be quick is because basically he's been to court and he spent quite a long time there being sued by victims and parents of victims of the Sandy Hook massacre. An FBI agent and a bunch of parents took him to task over the things that he said. And the judge, God bless him, has handed the guy $100,000 fine. And I just thought it'd be nice to let everyone know that finally something has come of all of this crap that he's been saying. Now, the next video is him at his deposition. I want to play that quickly, let people have a couple of words, and then we'll just move away because he doesn't deserve the airtime.
Real quick on that though, like he built his own network before they finally cracked down on him, so he made a lot of money. And also on what you were just saying, what was your last point there, man? I skipped on it.
Oh, my brain's gone now. What was I saying? Just he got $100,000 fine, and he really deserved it. I guess
he did deserve it. The real damage came of that, of the Sandy Hook reporting that he was doing, and he caused quite a, like, for some reason people really latched onto that conspiracy theory, and
they really did.
Yeah, there was some cover-up stuff that you could maybe look into that, but there's nothing provable at all. But he was acting just
absolutely. You know what? It seems to me like the whole thing. You were saying it best, Bobby. He basically he has this performance piece. He says things that he knows are going to appeal to his audience, but he doesn't say it because he even believes it. He says it because it helps him sell his goddamn pills, right? If you've ever watched his show, every 30 seconds he's selling vitamin supplements, some sort of pill to help you get an erection, or just like any number of these like snake oil sales, right? The guy's an absolute charlatan. Now I want to show you a video of him at his deposition, right? I don't think we're going to watch the whole thing, but I'd like to let you watch 30 or 40 seconds of him trying to explain his actions in court. So Bobby, why don't you hit play on that one?
At least let him get through the third one.
Sure.
Here we go.
Copy of what I have marked as Exhibit 4. You ever seen that before?
I don't remember.
You're not sure if you've seen this before?
No.
Okay. You'll see up at the top it has a timestamp, 12/14/12.
Yes.
You know that's the date of Sandy Hook, right?
I don't know.
You don't know that?
Well, is that the date?
It is.
Okay.
It is, Mr. Jones. You will admit, I mean, you've done mocking imitations of Sandy Hook parents crying, correct?
No.
I want to play you a video clip, too, from September 24th, 2014 and November 11th, 2016. Will you play the video clip called Crying?
And then you've got parents laughing, going, and they walk over to the camera and go, and not just one, but a bunch of parents doing this. Then we see footage of one of the reported fathers of the victims, Robbie Parker, doing classic acting training where he's laughing and joking, and they say, hey, we're live, and he goes, oh. And maybe that's real. I'm sure it is.
You realize now you were mocking the difficult emotional reactions of people who provably lost their children.
No, I was not mocking. I was showing what people were questioning. It was not to mock the parents. It was showing why people were questioning. It's you that is projecting mocking onto it. I was showing what he did.
Starting into 2015, you learned that a Sandy Hook parent named Leonard Posner was behind a group called Honor Network. Correct? That was fighting online abuse of Sandy Hook victims?
I did, I think.
And when you learned that, and when Honor complained to YouTube in 2015, you told your viewers that Honor was run by Mr. Posner. You showed addresses being used by Mr. Posner, and you said he needed to be investigated in Florida. Didn't you say that?
He doxed somebody. He doxed them all.
He doxed the hell out of him.
Absolutely. Like my favorite excuse from him. He basically used to smoke weed fairly regularly, right? And his wife complained about this. And when he was asked about it, he said, "Oh, I'm just testing the quality of it to see what chemicals they're putting into it to see."
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm a quality control.
Frogs are gay.
I'm a quality control gateway for these streets.
Yeah, right.
Oh my
Absolutely.
God.
Oh, unbelievable human being. Right?
If anything's off, if anything's off about the weed, I will let you all know.
Now, look, he's a lot of fun to make fun of, I know, but actually, I think really I don't want to give too much time to the guy. I really wanted to let people know that after all of the bullshit that he's been sowing for everybody, it's finally come back and kicked him in the ass. And I think anyone watching would have seen the look on his face, right?
But
Bobby.
I think the point should be that if, like we were talking about before, he made so much money off of this sensationalism, and to be taxed $100,000 at the end of the day is kind of a slap in the face to everybody that he put on his knee for it to get it. You know.
You know what? You're right. I suppose
Dude
I haven't
made
really
millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars during this period of time where he had his own freaking network that had several shows airing on it under its name with full-blown advertising campaigns and advertisers. I bet you he was making $20-30 million a year.
Oh, you're not kidding.
Oh yeah, well, and that's the thing about the lawsuits that are that's happening with him now is the $100,000 is just the latest. He's also culpable for all their legal fees for all the times that he's tried to appeal them. He's culpable for there's not just that lawsuit. I think there's like 2 or 3 other lawsuits that are still in the court system. But he's the one that was in the news recently. It wasn't just 100,000. It was 100. The total was $261,000 with everything because he was being held in contempt for not providing documentation to the court and for something else. And so he got fined for that on top of the judgment against him for one of the parents.
I suppose you can also add to that, he's been kicked off YouTube, so he's not getting any of his advertising revenue for that anymore, and he's not been allowed to use his Patreon anymore. I think he's been deleted from there. He's been taking off a number of like sites where he gets his cash from, so he has lost a huge amount of his income, granted. It is much more difficult for him to sell his erection pills now. Basically, I've been wanting to say that on air forever. The guy just talks snake oil. That's his whole job, right? He sells
I saw your eyebrows when you
what was that?
I saw your eyebrows.
He's got to find some way of making the frogs straight again.
What was that 1 minute debunk?
I just said I saw Jim's eyebrows when he said erection pills. Jim, say erection pills.
Erection pills. Oh, there you go.
It's reflexive.
It's an automatic reaction. What can I say?
I looked up his net worth. He's worth about $10 million. That's the estimate. No one knows, of course. But, so hopefully there'll be another 1,000 lawsuits like this.
Well, look, I don't want to ruin the man's life. You know.
Why not?
Can I turn to our special guest at the moment? We haven't had much of a chance to talk to him yet. And a conspiracy. You got any thoughts on that, Alex Jones?
I hate him.
Human garbage, obviously.
He's human. Like you said, he's human garbage. There's no redeeming quality about him. There's nothing he can do to fix what he's fucked up. I mean, if you just take one subject, you just look at what he did at Sandy Hook, he lost everything. And I believe anything that he made on this shit, he should be stripped of.
Yeah.
There was so much damage that he did, for the family and the friends of all these people. There's no way he can repay or apologize. There's nothing he can do to fix what he's done. And there's not much more to say than that. I mean, he's a complete garbage.
Just look at the fact that he actually, like Carissa said, he actually appealed these rulings.
Oh,
it's like, dude, pay the tax, man. What the hell's wrong with you?
And refused to hand over documentation to the court. Like he blatantly said, "No, judge, you're not getting this document," because he knew it was incriminating, and he thought he could get away with it. And the judge would be like, "Oh, okay, well then, never mind, it's dismissed," because they had moved for dismissal and they said no. So his legal team is just as slimy as he is.
He has since sort of backed down from the claim, because what he said was, at the time I was suffering from a form of psychosis, and now I know better. As if learning
bullshit.
from having that. Yeah, absolutely. That
bullshit.
seems to me like an excuse to get out. I was diminished capacity. He knew exactly what he was doing. Look, let's not waste too much time on this.
At the time, his brain was placid, but now his brain is fully erect.
The pills are working.
All his boner pills.
Well, that's what happens when you're a dick.
Yeah. Excellent point. Well made. I love it. Okay, look, I don't want to spend too much time on him. He doesn't deserve it. And we've got a really interesting little clip next. Bobby, I'm going to get you to line up the next video, and then Zapostate's going to tell us what it's all about. Bobby.
Sounds good.
Here we're going to be exploring a magical and rare gem called tanzanite. Tanzanite is part of the zoisite family, a group of crystals that encourages you to lighten up and to just enjoy life more.
This is the beginning of a journey hundreds of meters underground, all in search of a precious stone, tanzanite. It is also here, deep below the Earth's surface, that many children as young as 15 are trapped in an official and potentially unsafe working condition.
The vibration of tanzanite opens up your awareness in a direct and specific way. It is uniquely potent in its propensity to engage the heart.
You sweat a lot, and the mine can collapse on you, and you can die. I'm not happy to work here, but my dad has no money to send me to school.
Boys of Msafiri's age and size are considered assets here, so some mining companies break the law to employ them.
These children are referred to as snakes because underground in the mine there are places that are not easy to reach, especially for a grown-up. But children can easily reach an area that is difficult for someone like me to pass through.
It's a lovely crystal and I adore it. I am wearing it at the moment. This little necklace is tanzanite and I also have it in my ring. I find it the most cheering crystal I've ever come across. Now, I don't mean like let's work on sort of deep, dark depression, because there are crystals that are much better for that. But it's very good if you're just having a bad day and kind of want to just do something to lift you a little bit.
But not all the children are unhappy working here.
Since I started working here, I have built a house, bought some livestock, and I have also bought some clothes for myself.
It is this financial security that attracts youngsters like Leonard and Msafiri to the mines rather than going to school.
Wow. Okay, the prostate. So, what have you got?
Yeah, so obviously being the show's resident SJW, I have to bring everyone down with depressing shit like this. But we all know that that crystal healing and these sort of things have become more and more popular over the recent years. It's not a new thing. This sort of stuff has been around since, forever, since humans have looked at shiny rocks, of course. But there was a big jump in the Victorian era, with scryers and fortune tellers and things. But for some reason, recently in the past couple of decades, this has really been a huge market. And a lot of these crystals are coming from places where there's either child labor or forced labor going on in these crystal mines. And there's always been a thing about diamonds and very precious stones that people like, the whole blood diamond thing. But these semi-precious stones are also, subject to this sort of treatment to the people who live and mine there. I picked tanzanite because it's probably one of the most glaring examples of these new crystals and where they come from. Clearly, that's only in Tanzania, but anywhere else, jade, amethysts, emeralds, sapphires, you can find countries all over the place that use either child labor or forced labor to dig these things out. And I just think I understand some people do think that it works, but if you have a crystal like tanzanite and you say something like, "This is such a happy crystal and it brings me joy," I'm wondering, does the kid who just had to snake through a nearly collapsed mine to get that crystal for you, did he feel that joy? Like, wouldn't it hold the energy? I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Surely that mine is full of sweetness, light, and healthy healing energy. And and yet these kids come out completely covered head to foot in like soot or dust, coughing their guts up with a shortened lifespan. You'd have thought that wouldn't work like that, right?
Yeah, very shortened. And the thing is, too, another deal with this is you can go to these stores sometimes here in the States or in Europe, and they'll have little labels that say, this is what's the word they use, a fair source, or they're saying that
Fair
it's not
trade,
from
yeah.
child labor. What's that?
Fair trade. Well, there's a couple of, we got
Yes,
fair trade
fair
and
trade.
fair wild in this country, which is where fair trade is where it's farmed and fair wild is where they gather stuff from the wild environment. And they claim to have fair practices, although what they actually describe is fairer practices, which I think give a lot of the game away. Sorry, as a
Absolutely.
you go on.
No, you're right on. In fact, there's another video on this about the Tanzanite, talking to a Tanzanian government official who basically says, no, we don't use child labor. We don't do that. And they're stamping these stones with this fair use or fair trade, whatever, but they're not really. It's just government cover up because they want to make that money off of those exports. So you got to be careful. Be careful.
Absolutely. At the other end of the scale as well, when it comes to being a consumer, this is a very slight tangent, but Port Ponky told me a rather brilliant story about a mineral called cinnabar. Perhaps you'd care to elaborate a little bit on that, Port Ponky.
Cinnabar is a wonderful substance. It's going to kill you. So don't go. It contains ethyl mercury and often just mercury. Mercury by itself is pretty poisonous, especially I think the fumes can really do you in, make your brain melt. But the
large amounts,
is it organic mercury compounds? I'm not a chemist, so I think it's like
organic mercury. Methyl mercury is organic mercury.
Methyl mercury, that's it. Yeah, that stuff. That's like mercury on mercury. It's you get a little bit of that on your skin, you're dead. You're straight up dead. You're going to die in the most horrible way you can possibly imagine. It's going to take absolutely ages.
Yeah.
And you can actually go onto some of these crystal websites and read up about cinnabar, and they'll say, it's got some kind of energy, and you can use it. Mild warning, may contain mercury, that kind of thing. I don't have links to hand anymore, but it's not hard. Just Google for like cinnabar crystal here. You can find people shilling this stuff. So just take that kind of stuff with a grain of salt, because this is incredibly poisonous, and there are people out there saying it is good for you. So
great. Well, look, which is why it's not such a very great tangent, but quite apart from the hilarious qualities of it killing the people who buys it, there's the slightly less hilarious quality that the people who have to mine it out of the ground suffer some really horrendous effects of this, which is where it comes from, because they're from the same countries which tend to use child labor and which tend to claim that they don't with farewell practices. Can you imagine what it must be like as a 15-year-old child being sent down a mine because it's the only reasonable source of income you can find in your area and asked to pull something out of the ground which will kill them, and they don't know that that's what it's doing to them, because some rich white Western guys selling it for £50 on the gram, the same price as bloody cocaine, with the claim that it's going to heal you, and you don't know how many dead bodies it took to get that thing to you. I just think it's horrendous.
Does it just make cocaine?
Yeah. It's easier.
Less dangerous than mining cinnabar.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, children on cocaine work fast. So anyway.
Snake in and snake out.
Absolutely. Now, look, does anyone want to add anything to this one before we move on to the next subject? That's a big, long, yawning silence. I'm going to guess that's a no. So
everyone's thoroughly depressed.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much to Postate for cheering up the New Year's show. No, seriously though, that was
Jack, appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Absolutely great little piece. Thank you very much indeed for that. Now, look, the next one, we've got a bit of a top of the pops, which to those who are not from England, I guess you would call it Billboard 500. I don't know really what they call it over in the States. Anyway, we got a top 10 list of some fantastic astronomical discoveries from the year 2019, which is why our new panelist, Pete Berube, who is a bit of an expert in these matters, is going to take us through. So, Bobby, perhaps you'd load up the very first clip, and then Pete's going to take us through the rest. That's a
Pete,
long
are you ready,
silence. Can we
sir?
You need
Pete,
to
Yeah, I'm all set.
here we go.
And in at number 10, it's Jupiter's red spot is disappearing. Pete Baroob, give us the lowdown.
What? Yep. So this happens periodically where it'll lose like a layer there. So you see it like really looks like an eye, especially from like ancient Egypt. That belt right there in white going in the middle is kind of stealing some material. This happens periodically, but we don't really know why. But we're waiting to see if this one does any permanent damage to the red spot.
Ah, nice. Now, am I right in thinking that if you look at some of the other gas giants, I think it's Pluto. Pluto. It's
Yeah, Pluto.
I can't remember which one it is. Is it Neptune or Uranus? I think it's Neptune, which is the one that's tilted 90 degrees. That's actually also technically got an eye. It's in a slightly different position, but we're not sure whether or not the eye on Jupiter and planets like it is something that is always there in the case of gas giants, and it's some sort of subduction zone where hot and cool gases rise, or whether or not it might completely disappear, right?
What about
well, we do know that like on Saturn, they come and go.
Sure.
So it'd just be the duration of the type of planet or the makeup that would, see how long it actually lasts. Like the red dot on Jupiter's lasted for as long as we've known it to.
Sure.
So we can watch ones on Saturn come and go. So.
Can I go down a rabbit hole?
Punky, what was that, mate?
Okay, so I've read a little bit about this red spot, and Pete, I'm sure you can fill me in with the gaps in my knowledge here. But I read that initially it was noted there was a spot on Jupiter, and then there was a period of about 80 years where no one said anything about there being a spot on Jupiter, which doesn't mean there wasn't one, just nobody wrote it down.
Right.
And then people started talking about the spot again, but this time they said specifically it was red, and they don't know if it was like a different color spot, or it was brown, or it was a different spot, or if it was always the same red spot, and people just didn't really note down the details.
This is it. Was it in the same spot? Was it the same size? Did it have the same color and consistency?
Yeah,
what the hell
this is right back in the early days of telescopes. They weren't really specific.
From like the northern hemisphere, it's always been on like the southern hemisphere of Jupiter. So it's never really changed on the edge of that thick band in the middle. But we have seen it like get bigger and smaller and go from brown to dark red and, back again, and then seem like now like kind of getting a layer peeled off of it. But it's happened before. We've watched a layer peel off before, and then the red spot grew back up again, because we don't really know like what's going on in the vortex of that. So,
but it smells terrible.
Pete, perhaps you can give us some of the great numbers about this thing, because as far as I understand it, you can put the planet Earth into it several times, and the speeds of the winds are like hundreds or even thousands of kilometers an hour. Is that right?
Yeah, you can do about 3 Earths across in the red spot itself. Like Jupiter, you could put over 1,000 Earths in.
Right.
Itself, but this just shows you how big like that spot is about 3 Earths wide.
Nice.
So,
This is one of these numbers facts I love about the solar system, which is if you imagine that the Earth could go 3 across in there and you could put 1,000 of them into Jupiter, but then you realize that the sun accounts for more than 99% of the mass in the solar system, and that includes the Kuiper belt, the Oort cloud, all the rocky planets, and the other gas giant. Like Jupiter is enormous compared to Earth, but compared to the sun, can you imagine how tiny the Earth is? I think you can put 1 million of them in the sun. Is that right, Pete?
Yep, you could put 1,000 Jupiters in the sun or 1 million Earths.
Damn!
Wow.
I can.
I have a quick question. Have you all seen I believe it's Saturn that has the hexagonal?
Yeah.
Boxes on
This
the
came up on the show before, didn't it? It's around the northern. Oh, it's around the poles essentially.
It's both poles
some
have a
complex heat
hexagon.
interaction.
Actually, the same thing as what you were talking about with the induction. It's freaking nuts. Perfect hexagons on each pole.
Yeah.
Are these clouds you're saying?
Demonstrate it.
It's gas pressure. It's not cloud. It's a buildup of a darker gas.
Sure.
It's
As
crazy.
I understand it, Pete, you're going to have to correct me on this. I'm probably going to get this wrong. But what you've got is two interacting layers of gas at different densities and different speeds, which are traveling around the poles. The outer material is moving faster than the inner material, which means that it causes these eddy currents to form. And it happens at just the perfect height where the number of eddy currents is always 6. And that happens on all the gas giants. And what happens is you get sort of 6 equally spaced hurricanes, which draw the bands between them into straight lines. And so you get these really beautiful, complex hexagonal patterns at the poles, right?
Yep, that's precisely correct.
Fantastic. Look, I
I
knew something.
was blown away when it was Cassini that took those pictures, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I was blown away when I saw it. I was like, I can't believe this. This is crazy.
Now, look, we got another 9 of these to get through. So as much as I'd love to keep talking about it forever, let's move on to the next clip, Bobby, if you would.
Number 9.
And then at number 9, it's the Nobel Prize for Astronomy, who has gone to Pete Berube. No, not to Pete Berube, but you're going to tell me.
Yes. Good job, Pete.
Congrats. Well done, mate.
And you. I always believed in you.
Yeah. So we got 3 guys here. Well, not just guys, but we got James Peebles, Michael Mayer, and I'm not even going to try to say anybody else want to try that name. Didier Quolas.
I wish
I'll go with that.
No, I love pronouncing foreign names. It's a good laugh.
But yeah, they got Nobel Prizes for their theoretical work in cosmology, specifically for planets around another sun-like star.
Nice. That's really impressive stuff. Now, did you want to add any complex details to this, or should we bang straight on to the next one?
We'll bang straight through, because that's
Okay. So next video, please, Bobby. And then at number 8, it's the Opportunity rover, who sadly is dead. It's dead now. It's all dead. It's not coming back. It's dead. Pete Berube.
It's been sanded to death. But yeah, so basically it died in 2018, but we still got some stuff from it, like it wasn't able to move. Our last transmissions came from 2019. But just to give you a little quick rundown, it was only supposed to last 90 days, but it lasted 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
it's 12 times longer than it was supposed to. That's how good the stuff NASA makes is, by the way. 12 times. Sorry, Pete.
Yeah, that's getting your money's worth there. But it went 45 kilometers. And completely changed the way we think about our neighboring red planet.
Yeah. Found hematite globules on the surface, which meant that we absolutely found evidence for erased, evaporating oceans, right?
Yep. And of course, it found a rat in a soda can in a map crumple. Oh wait.
Don't tell them. The Illuminati will kill us if they find out. Brilliant. All right. Well, look. Is there any more fun facts and features you wanted to add about Opportunity rover? Because obviously there were 2 of them, right? You had oh crikey, I can't remember. Spirit and Opportunity. Both of them lasted a damn sight longer than they were supposed to, and eventually died. Ironically, because their wheels got punctured. They basically couldn't end up moving, and that's what killed them. They couldn't move. It meant that the weather couldn't dust them off because of where they were located, and they eventually ran out of power. It's conceivable that if we landed on Mars and found them and just blew a bit of air over the top of them, they'd come right back to life again, right?
Most likely, but it depends on how long they've been sitting there, because things will still rust and degrade and all that without movement.
Now, Curiosity rover, that one's got an RTG aboard, which for those who don't know is a radioisotope thermoelectric generator. And that just means it's got a lump of radioactive material that makes heat. The heat generates electricity. And that thing's going to last a hell of a long time. It's not going to rely on solar panels. So, again, something which was designed for it wasn't 90 days this time. It was more like 120 or 180. That thing's going to be around for years as well. A piano-sized robot that's still roaming around and finding out stuff about this beautiful planet, right?
Absolutely. And it goes a little bit faster than 1 mile an hour, so.
We can cover more ground. One of the things that I think is brilliant about now, it is Opportunity rover. There's quite a famous image. It's a meme online. You've got a picture of it looking back along the track that it's been along, and by complete accident, it's basically drawn a cock in the sand. You've got a long shaft with a head on it and a couple of balls. So you've got to go out and have a look at this, because my theory is that NASA scientists knew exactly what they were doing. Anyway, let's quickly move on to the next video, shall we, Bobby?
All right.
And in the number 7, it's Starlink versus the stars. I'm going to let Pete tell the whole story on this one instead of talking over him. Off you go, mate.
Yep, so this is another baby of Elon Musk and SpaceX. He's trying to get broadband internet, nothing but like by satellite. So that way he can reach everybody all over the world, no matter where you're at, period. Unless, you're like miles on the ground. So he's got a bunch of them up there. He had a group that didn't quite work right, so they're sending up more. They've sent up 120 so far this year, and they just sent up another group a few weeks ago, but we don't know their status as of yet.
Well, I look forward to that immensely. It feels like it's 2020 is finally the future, and we're very close to having the sort of global interconnectivity that we all dreamed of. No longer will you have to hold your phone in the air to get signal. Within 10 years from now, you'll just get phone signal wherever the hell you are, even if you live in the deepest, darkest depths of the Georgian hills or the West Country of the UK. Any more you want to add on this?
I remember watching this launch on Casual Spaceman's channel. This was a very exciting launch to watch all of the satellites cascade out of the ship. It was crazy. I do have a question. What exactly are we seeing in this image here?
It's a shot from the ground of the satellites themselves. So they're tracking the satellites, but the stars and everything else are whizzing by.
Now,
so
as I understand
it, are the satellites.
Pete, you'll be able to correct me on this. As a standard human being with your standard human being eyes, although Pete Berube is obviously a superhero, so it's different for him. But for the rest of us, when you look into the sky on the clearest night, you get to see about 100,000 stars. And we're planning on putting about that many Starlink satellites up eventually, which means that maybe 50 years from now, when you look into the sky, maybe 1 in 10 of the dots you see will be tracking slowly across the sky, and it'll be this beautiful shell of satellites that surrounds us and makes the starlight move. Is that right?
Maybe. They're not like all that big as satellites. They're on the smaller end of just a few meters across. They're not like the school bus size. So even if we get a blanket of them going on, we won't be able to see them.
Well, I guess what I mean is they're going to glint, right? Because they do ultimately reflect light. When they pass the right part of the sky.
Yeah, you'd have to be out where it's super dark. But you might be able to see that with the naked eye.
I've heard this rather beautiful description about because they would reflect the light from the sun at a very specific angle in the sky. If you're in the right part of the world when you're looking up, what you'll see is an almost rainbow-like band that crosses across the sky, where you'll see this constant twinkle as they pass through that very specific angle where they reflect light from their surface back down to the earth. Again, not going to be visible from the city or anywhere with light pollution, but I mean, it just feels like we're living in the future now, right?
Yeah, for sure. We've been needing this actually for a while now. So.
Absolutely. We're finally getting there. Okay, right. Well, look, let's push on to the next video, shall we?
Every time the talk of adding all these satellites comes up, I really always think of when are we going to solve the problem of taking things back down. I'm not one of the people that mistakes the size of the debris that's in this. Like, you'll see that map and it looks like there's just shit everywhere, but most of that stuff is nowhere near the size of the blip that's used to mark the map. So I still think that eventually, though, it could become a severe obstacle for us.
Oh, absolutely.
And navigating our way off our own planet. Yeah, it's already a problem, but we're able to navigate it. But eventually, if we keep at this pace, I mean, it's only a matter of 100 years or so, and we won't be able to move.
Definitely.
Idea called the Kessler syndrome, which is where objects will, like debris in space, will crash into other debris. I don't know if you ever played the old game Asteroids, and you shoot them, and tons of little bits, and it just becomes impossible. Basically that's going to happen. The debris is going to break apart other debris until you've just got an absolute mess of debris everywhere, which will make it incredibly difficult to use satellites.
Which is why people think
this may already have started this process.
I was just going to add that.
me-
Yeah, we wondered it hasn't happened already. Pete,
Well,
sorry.
well, we're developing technology to make a net. We'll actually have to send up more satellites, but between the satellites, we cast like a net, and it can catch all the debris. And those satellites will be able to be turned and go at abnormal trajectories. So they won't just stay in one orbit; they'll be able to cruise up and down between the different orbit lengths.
And they'll eventually decay.
And then they'll decay, and then that big blob will burn up, and we'll catch it, or whatever
Indeed.
it is.
Isn't there also
Retrieve
another
it.
one where they're planning on making basically a bloody great big laser, and it's not going to destroy the stuff up there, but what it'll do is, as a satellite comes towards you, you can impart a bit of momentum to it and slow it down to just bring its periapsis, which is the point where it's lowest in its orbit, within the atmosphere. If we can do that, get all of the sort of debris to just cross into the outer edge of the atmosphere, eventually it will bring itself down. So it's good to see we've got plans to sort this problem out, right?
Or burn it, or hopefully burn up in the atmosphere.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
We just need big spaceship with nets on both sides, just flying around, collecting all the crap and sending it towards the sun.
Don't you guys remember in You Only Live Twice, 007, at the very beginning of the movie, the big ship that comes up and it opens its mouth?
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's great. Oh, we need to build that. What a great toy. Absolutely.
What an efficient tool, right?
Yeah. Right, okay, let's push on to the next one. We've still got 5 to go. So, Bobby, could you stick the next video up, please?
Next video.
And in at number 6, I think we're talking about the Parker Solar Probe, although I may be wrong. Pete Berube, what are we chatting about now?
Nope, you nailed it. Parker Solar Probe mission. It completed 3 of 24 planned orbits. That gets it closer and closer to the sun. It's already skimmed the outermost atmosphere, passing within 24 million kilometers. That's closer than Mercury.
Wow.
Yep, and so its findings are rogue waves in the solar wind, which generate more than 300,000 mile an hour chunks of matter. Very light chunks of matter, though. And then there's switchbacks, which astronomers think hold the key to heating the sun's outer atmosphere.
Now, this is what we're looking at now, isn't it?
Yeah, we're trying to figure out why the corona is 1 million degrees and the surface of the sun is like 15,000 degrees.
Yeah. Although I'd just like to convert that for anyone who's on the metric system. 15,000 degrees is about 66,000 degrees Celsius, just for those who are wondering. Okay, lovely. Look, we've still got a few to get through, so if you've got any more to add, now's the time. But otherwise, I'll push on to number 5.
I like that.
Wait. 15,000 degrees is 66,000 Celsius or 6,600?
No, 6,000. 6,000.
Okay, I thought you said 66,000. Like, wait a second.
Oh. Now, I forget the exact thing, but basically, one's double the other minus 32. But by the time you get to about the thousands, you can ignore the 32, more or less.
Might as well. Yeah.
Right. In which case, Bobby, can you stick the next video up, please, mate?
Coming right up.
And at number 5, it's a tour of the asteroids. Pete, why don't you tell us what's going on here?
Yeah, I don't know why my picture looks so crappy, but we'll deal with it. You're just missing some pimple-looking stuff on it. So, Japan's Hayabusa 2 spacecraft touched down on this asteroid twice. Basically, it's due to have another flyby this month, but we haven't heard yet. So, but it got samples of the asteroid every time it landed, and we're waiting for the samples to return, which should be crashing down in Australia, of all places. So, that's basically that right now. So it's one of the few asteroids that we've actually collected pieces from and brought them back to Earth.
Oh, cool, man! That is so ridiculously cool. We've actually got 2 asteroids.
Yeah, we took the same ship, landed it, and then popped it up and landed it in a different position.
Wow.
So that's really cool.
We're getting good at this space stuff, man. Finally, we're approaching Flash Gordon level.
Figuring it out.
So yeah, that was the gist of this, is that we've collected samples off of it. So.
Before you know it, Matt.
Yeah.
We're nearly there. All right, brilliant. Right, and let's push on to the next one straight away then, Bobby. And in at number 4, we've got the second interstellar visitor sting. So I think the first one was, I never pronounce this. It was something like Umea or something. Pete,
Yeah.
perhaps you can correct me.
Umama. That's what I think. At least American English should say it. Yeah, but besides that one, this is called 2I/Borisov. It's actually not from our solar system.
Wow.
However, its trajectory shows that it orbits our entire solar system. So it wasn't made here, but maybe we captured it at some point in the distant past, and now it orbits us as a whole, not just, but it never comes into the solar system. It's always out around the outside. But we can actually see it this time because some of it's coming off. So.
Of course, it's just warming up enough to start release some of its sort of surface ice and stuff, is it?
Yeah, it's super deep freeze from interstellar space. So.
We think about the distances between just us and our next star. The idea that we could capture a piece of rock that came from another solar system is just breathtaking to me. That if we could get out there and sample it, we could learn so much about other star systems and other planets just by, even if we just find out that they're similar to us, that would answer a whole bunch of questions, right?
Oh,
well, we only got 43 years till Zephyr Cochrane makes the warp drive, so.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know, I'm cool with that.
That could be the Vulcans just hanging out there right now, just waiting.
Oh, man.
You're forgetting the World War that we have in between then.
Oh,
Trump started that. That's okay.
If you were to collect, yeah,
right.
exactly.
And the eugenics.
It's all coming to plan.
Brilliant stuff. All right, look, we're pushing on. We're getting close to the end now, so I'm going to ask you to press the next video because this is really interesting.
But if you were to go collect that rock, it would be
yours.
Well, no, it were similar, and it were to be similar in makeup, like Jim said, that would answer a lot statistically as to it'd be kind of improbable, and if it were similar, it would say a lot for what the rest of the universe is probably made of.
Yeah, and if we could get a sample, we could then look out into our neighborhood and see which solar systems or stars have that makeup.
Precisely.
And we could get a good guess on where it came from.
It would answer a lot of questions.
Oh man, that'd be
and present a bunch too. It's amazing. I love science.
Yep.
All right, next.
And in at number 3, we've got some moon landings. Only they haven't always been quite as successful as the ones in the 60s. Pete, what have you got?
Nope. Yeah, so if we want to start with that, Israel's Beresheet mission didn't quite make it. Had a problem with its descent engine, and it crashed onto the surface. And then India's Chandrayaan-2 also experienced a software glitch before crashing, but it crashed very near where they wanted it to land in the first place. So that means their trajectory was correct. So that's a good step for them.
Absolutely.
They just got to fix the software glitch to happen.
Yeah.
But
now, one
this
of
is a
these were
picture.
carrying tardigrades, weren't they? Is that right? One of them was carrying tardigrades on board, which means technically right now there could be life on the moon.
That's what I was going to ask about the tardigrade.
Was that I missed that. Say again.
I was just about to ask about how those tardigrades were doing.
Okay.
The water bears.
Probably just
bears on the moon. Awesome. Cool. Well, look, we're getting real close to the top of this list now. If there's anything more you want to add, Pete, you let me know.
No, we have just been able to map the moon really well now because China's up there rolling around. So we're getting some really good surface details now. So the next moon landing should be a lot smoother.
Oh, of course. Well, this is it because within, it's 2020. So in the next 4 to 5 years, depending on how delayed they are, we're going back. We're going to be on the moon for a week this time, or 6.5 days. We doubled the previous.
Unmanned launches were supposed to start this year. We're not sure that they're going to remain on schedule, but we'll see.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to it however long it takes. Hopefully, it's still going to be within my lifetime. If they can get it done in the next 10 years, that'd be fantastic.
Yep.
Cool beans. All right, lovely. Well, let's push on to it's number 2 next, isn't it?
Now down to number 2.
And in at number 2, I barely understand this subject at all. So actually, Pete, you're going to have to do all the heavy lifting on this one. Off you go, mate.
All right, so just so you know, this is the best example of gravity in action that I've ever seen.
Yeah, good point.
This 2 bodies in space merging to become one. So and you can even see like a little white ring around what's been known as the neck, where they meet, and that's the crushed material between the 2. That's why it's so much lighter colored than the actual 2 bodies themselves.
So they impacted each other.
Yeah, well, they stuck at some point, and they are slowly impacting. They're merging into one.
This is such an amazing image. I think
Like
of it as a
they're permanently connected. Yeah, at this point, they're permanently connected. At this point,
that's crazy.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a perfect example of what they call aggregation, right? Which is obviously their impact speed was low enough not to destroy each other, but it was high enough to merge. So we've got direct evidence of what happens when 2 interstellar bodies connect in an impact like this. This just helps confirm theories more and more and helps our understanding grow, right?
That's correct.
Beautiful. All right. Well, look, we're there. We're finally at number 1 on the list. Let's see what that one is. And in at number 1, you know it, I know it. It's the coffee stain in space. Pete Maria, tell us about it.
Yep, ladies and gentlemen, this is a black hole silhouette, actually, because you can't actually see the black hole, but we see everything around it that is not the black hole, so therefore we can see the black hole.
Yeah, well, but now this is breathtaking. They had to basically, I mean, they didn't make a telescope the size of the Earth, but they used, I think it was 8 different observatories to construct a sort of virtual telescope the size of the Earth just in order to get this. Is that right?
Yep, yeah, you don't want to say we had a telescope the size of the Earth, but we had a telescope the size of the Earth.
Wow.
Yep, like every country that had any kind of large, sizable telescope was in on this picture.
So this is a truly international effort.
Yep, there's radio telescopes, millimeter telescopes, sub-millimeter telescopes, 1 optical, a couple X-rays. So it was a big undertaking.
We've finally got direct visual photographic evidence of black holes, which in a sense you could say were theoretical up till now, using the colloquial version of theoretical, obviously. But like we have, this is it. There's proof. There's definitely black holes. There's one right there on the screen. There's no denying it anymore.
How impressive is the physics and the theories we have that come up with these before we ever even find them, and then we get to look at one. It's incredible.
Absolutely.
And it's just like our math predicted.
Absolutely. This is like predicting and finding, was it Uranus? No, or Neptune. I forget which one again. But basically, you know, that's it, Neptune. We predicted Neptune would be there and then we found it. This eclipses that, frankly, in my opinion, by several orders of magnitude because of its distance and its size and the sheer, you know, grand grace and elegance of the damn thing. It's just amazing. Now, I don't know, I think this is the only image we've actually got today, but it's worth people going out, looking at the links in the description and finding the article source this is based on, because there's another image, a sort of a zoomed out version of this, which to my mind is, if anything, even more impressive. You can see the tiny black hole at the middle of it, but it's a much more detailed, much grander view of what's going on in that area of space, right?
Yep. Yeah, and I have a few little details about this. So the dot in the middle is the black hole. And we've determined that that black hole is 220 AUs in diameter. Right, so 1 AU is the distance between the sun and the Earth at 150 million kilometers or 93 million miles. So if we do that, our whole solar system in diameter is about 220 AUs. So our entire solar system can fit inside of that black hole.
Wow. I mean, the awesome power of these things. If you imagine that the Schwarzschild radius of something that is bigger than our solar system is so enormous that the mass of that thing is, I mean, it's beyond numbers almost. You could write it numerically, but you can't understand what that number means, right? The density and mass, this is extraordinary.
Absolutely.
There it is. A hole in space-time. Tore a hole right in it. Fantastic.
Now, before we move on, I do have a question. I'd like to give a crack at it. From Facthard says, say the Earth weighs 1 billion pounds, and over the last 50 years we've put 1 million pounds of stuff in orbit. How much would the Earth weigh now? I would think that you could roughly say it'd be 1 billion minus 1 million because you can't create or destroy matter. But we also have meteoroids and other things over time that hit daily. So we've added some and lost some. If my thinking on it's correct, but it would probably be around 1 million pounds missing.
Well, actually, we add more material in dust than we send into space, don't we, Pete?
Yep, it's about 100,000 tons a day of new material from space.
So yeah, we weigh more than we did then.
We'd have to be in the trillions, like sending stuff out in the trillions of pounds to like make a dent in that.
Now, as I understand it, the weight of the Earth is estimated at about 7 sextillion metric tons. And a number so enormous you don't really know how it means. Like the oceans alone are 5 quintillion tons. Again, a number beyond reason. And, adding the 100 million tons a year barely scratches the surface of the planet Earth, but it completely eclipses anything we send out. I mean, sending 100 million tons into orbit is like a dream for NASA.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we'd have to do it every day to make a dent in the, like gravity shift or anything of the Earth.
Well, I think isn't it something on the order of 250 or a quarter of a million tons a day would have to go into space to counteract it. It's just breathtaking numbers. So yeah, the Earth's heavier than it was, if anything.
Yeah, which is of course totally unfeasible to send that much stuff up each day.
Absolutely.
So.
Indeed. Well, look, brilliant, Pete. That is fantastic. A top 10 of all of the fantastic new astronomical sort of discoveries that we've made this year. I'm just going to give a quick chance for anyone to chime in with any last thoughts before we move on to the next subject. Has anyone got anything they want to add?
Yeah, it was probably last year, not this year. It's been a very busy 4 days.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much, Pop Ponky. Appreciate it. All right, well, Pop Ponky, speaking of which, because it's your subject next, I'm going to get Bobby to play the intro, and then you can tell us all about something you found out about the Voynich manuscript, and ATC is going to help as well. So, Bobby.
Here we go.
Right now, Port Ponky, we've got a video from Reddit. Do you know what? I think I better let you tell the whole story on this because we've got a couple of clips.
This is a bit of a rabbit hole as well. So, for people that don't know, the Voynich manuscript is old. Yeah, there it is. ETC's got it. I don't know why I always point.
Up on the right there.
That's not the original. Can you see it? That's yeah. Can you pop ETC up whilst
pop. Blow me up there, Bobby.
If you talk,
there he is.
Through that. So
hey. 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's an old band. This is a duplication. It's from the early 15th century by anyone's estimate, or by the carbon dating. It's written in some weird sort of gibberish text. Maybe it's a code, maybe it's some language no one knows, maybe it's nonsense. No one really knows the answer. ETC, you're on cam. You want to hold it up? No, it's changing. There we go. Yeah.
There we go.
If
Anyway.
you just hum a tune, then it'll keep you on screen.
No, I haven't been.
It's a fascinating manuscript, and as with anything of this nature, there's a lot of people out there that have the answer, and by have the answer, I mean have a lot of nonsense bundled together in a link. I believe a lot of these people are sincere, but they're also not linguists or code breakers or anything. They're often misguided. It's fine, having a weird solution to what the Voynich manuscript says is not really skin off anyone's nose, but sometimes it's quite amusing. On Reddit, which is a popular internet message boards, there's a Voynich manuscripts topic, and you do get a few people posting in there that they've discovered some solution, often involving translating everything into French or whatnot. And there was one particular guy who seems to have gone off the deep end. His name's Tommy O'Neill. He's got some theory that everything in the Voynich manuscript is written in Morse code, which...
I hadn't heard that one.
What?
That's fantastic.
So, Voynich manuscript, early sort of 1430, 1450. Morse code, comparatively modern. So...
Very.
Not only does he think it's Morse code, it's microdot Morse code, and you'd get a bunch of dots and dashes and then anagram them to make Italian words. So,
You know, when Port Ponky mentioned this to me, it sort of became quickly apparent to me that the point about Morse code is that it is dashes and dots, which means you can rearrange them in virtually any order you like. It's a meaningless way to decode, isn't it?
Every word is about 50% dots and 50% dashes. So,
right.
I'm gonna need some form of. I'm gonna need some sources and some evidence of this claim.
Yeah, quite.
Like I
Now,
said,
look,
it certainly didn't convince me. But this guy he's done well because he claims to have paid $2,000 for a recording of Wilfrid Voynich, who is the person who originally discovered the manuscript, who spoke at a conference in Philadelphia in 1921. So he's got this exclusive recording, and he put a snippet up for us to listen to, with the caveat that if we buy his book, he'll provide a full recording.
Oh,
of course you will.
How convenient. Now, Bobby, that's our first video, isn't it? Let's stick that one up so people can hear this amazing recording.
Yeah, this is breaking.
Here you go.
In 1912, during one of my periodic visits to the continent of Europe in quest of rare books and manuscripts, I came across the most remarkable collection of precious illuminated manuscripts. For many decades these volumes had lain buried in the chests in which I found them in an ancient castle in southern Europe, where the collection had apparently been stored in consequence of the disturbed political condition of Europe during the early part of the 19th century. As I hope someday to be able to acquire the remaining manuscripts in the collection, I refrain from giving details about the locality of the castle. Hello?
Sounds legit.
Yeah.
I gotta call bullshit on that one.
You think? Yeah, before we all cut in and point out how obviously stupid that is, I think I better hand it straight back to Port Ponky because he's got something else to add just to show how ridiculous it is. Port Ponky.
Yeah, so I don't know if he's genuinely paid $2,000 for that or...
It sounded like one of the computer programs.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, that's weird. I guess that's just how they spoke back then.
No, there's a YouTuber that has like this little character that's a teddy bear that's supposed to be like a demonic thing. That is his exact voice.
Now it's funny you should say that, Carissa.
Not to
When
mention,
I was reading the Reddit page, there was a chap who left a comment whose name is a weird name. I can barely pronounce it. It was like Port Ponky or something like that. Anyway, he said that he'd also found something. Port Ponky, why don't you tell us about what it is this person with a curiously similar name to yours had also found?
Well, not that Voynich seems to sound like a robot instead of a Polish person. I used my secret contacts in the Illuminati, and for only $69,000, I also purchased a recording of.
No.
You got a deal on yours, bro.
It's genuine. And I gave it away for free. You don't even need to buy a book. So, do you have the recording? I guess you do.
Playing it now?
Yeah, here's another recording. 100% genuine.
It's me, Wilfrid Voynich. This is a genuine recording from a conference in 1921, nearly 100 years ago. I forged the manuscript by tracing alphabeti spaghetti as it drained into my toilet. It was so simple.
It sounded just like him.
All right, how much do you want for that? I'll pay anything for the full recording. What?
Oh my god, that is some absolute genius. Right, look, Port Ponky, sorry, go on, mate.
Yeah, it's the same dude, so you cannot deny it's. Anyway, Tommy O'Neill also posted some newspaper article about how the Masons were going to smash up the Voynich manuscript or something. I didn't really read it. Someone responded with an identical-looking newspaper article generated by an online fake old newspaper article generating webpage about how aliens the Voynich manuscript. So basically, it's trolls trolling themselves
versus themselves.
Oh my god. It's just an incestuous circle of trollery. How ridiculous. Sorry, Steve, what was that, mate?
Well, the biggest consensus on actually who wrote it was Francis Bacon. There's supposedly part of a oh
yeah, we're gonna have a live debunking, are we? Poor Punky, what was that you wanted to add?
That is the theory that Voynich wanted to put forward, but it's sort of a bit late for a bit of it.
Yeah, that's I was getting to that point.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, but it's apparently I guess the dating they said on the book is too late for Bacon. But there was also something about you have to have one cipher that decodes another cipher that would decode another cipher that would decode the book. But nobody knows what those ciphers are, and there's no proof. So it's like, yeah.
Exactly. Well put. Poor Ponky, look, is there anything else you want to add to this? Because we're running short on time.
Oh, okay,
We've got one more subject to get to.
Just to clarify, in the Voynich manuscripts community, there are people who do good linguistic or like codological work on this. It's just a weird mix of people who have like a lot of academic backgrounds positing very mild things that may or may not be true, followed up by someone who says, "It's all in backwards Spanish." And there's a good guy, Nick Pelling, who's got a blog, Cipher Mysteries, which is well worth reading if you're into that sort of thing.
Oh, excellent. Now, I don't think I've had a chance to pop that into the links in the description, but maybe after the show, I'll see if I can find something to put in there as well. Definitely worth checking the links that we have got for this stuff, because it's just fascinating. Particularly, get onto that Reddit page if you want to have a bit of a laugh. Right. Anyone got any final thoughts to add to this before we turn to our final subject, and I can turn to our special guest?
The only thing I've got to say on that is if you haven't had a chance to look through the pages of the Voynich manuscript, it is a fascinating book. You can't understand a damn thing in it, but the pictures on it, the way it's written, I mean, it's a fabulous, interesting book to look at.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, it's sort of the rabbit hole to end all rabbit holes in many ways, though, isn't it? Sorry, Bobby.
The original is actually pressed flowers and things like that in it, correct?
No, it's it's illustrations of flowers in the first sort of third of it. But the flowers don't quite make sense.
Yeah,
they might be real flowers, but some of them
I don't know if you can pop me back up here, Bobby, but like the plants that are in the book, they don't fit any plants that we know of that existed or are existing now.
We've never seen anything like this. Okay.
Yeah.
Some of them look kind of similar to certain plants.
Yeah, they're similar, but they're off. So.
I mean, my personal inclination on this is to feel that it was intentionally written as something which is completely indecipherable, something which someone knew would take generations for people to decode, only to find out there is no actual inner meaning to it. It's almost like a hoax, but without any specific claim behind it. Does that sound like it makes any sense?
Absolutely, but that'd be a hell of a fiction because it's definitely got a bunch of people in the testing.
One of the biggest problems for them decoding this book is there's no punctuation whatsoever. So they don't know where sentences start, stop, pause, anything like that. So they can't figure out, and almost none of the same words repeat themselves.
So it's just nonsense to the eye.
Yeah, when you look at it, I mean, even like I said, they've had code breakers, and I think even the military code breakers have looked into it from different countries, and nobody can figure out what this thing says.
So there's no pattern whatsoever to
there's no patterns, there's no punctuation.
There are patterns. For example, every page, especially in the plant section, starts with a certain character, and then later in the same line, that same character is repeated, or a similar character is repeated. Gallows characters.
Oh, yep, you're right.
It's one of these things that is fascinatingly just right on the edge between just meaningful and nonsense. Every time you think, hey, it's just gibberish, you look at another page and you're like, well, but this doesn't fit the pattern. Nothing fits. It's just very strange.
I know for a fact we're going to be coming back to the Voynich
biggest rabbit
manuscript because it's
out there.
Absolutely, yeah. This is it. Well, we're going to be coming back to this in the future because it's so full of different theories and ways of looking at it. I love it, and I want to go back to it again. And for the meantime, though, before we run out of time entirely, I want to move on to our last subject of the evening. Bob, if you could hit the next video, and we'll turn to our special guest.
Coming right up. Live now.
Okay.
Fantastic. Okay, now, and the conspiracy, we waited to the very end so that you'd have a chance to finish the show off on this. It's a fascinating subject. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this?
Well, it was 1979. A gentleman by the name of R.C. Christian approached the I lost the name of the.
Now that's a pseudonym, isn't it?
Yeah,
RC
it's a pseudonym, and I'll get to that in just a second. He approached the Alberton Granite Factory and wanted to have this built. They had some issues not believing that, because we're talking hundreds of tons of granite.
Yep.
They wouldn't do it at first, so they had him go to the bank and whatnot. And there was a whole bunch of stuff with the bank, and so there's only one guy who actually knows who put it together, and he will not ever say he'll take it to his grave. But after he found out who they were and realized, yes, they have the money, then he financed it. The biggest thing, there's a huge conspiracy behind these Georgia Guidestones because a lot of people believe it's the New World Order. And this is what Agenda 21 is going to come down to.
Oh, for God's sake.
Yeah. Because
I've read about Agenda 21, and that is not. I mean, Agenda 21 is a real thing. It just happens to be from like a G4 summit from years ago, where they were discussing possible sort of useful future legislation. It's completely unrelated to the New World Order. But sorry, ETC. On you go,
they link it to the New World Order because of the 10 commandments that are on it. They're not really commandments, but they kind of are, but they aren't. And the fact that one of the stones that is based around the base has the Freemason symbol on it.
Cool.
If we read through the commandments here real quick, the first one says, maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature.
Now, just before you go on, I'm going to let you go on with this in just 1 second. I promise. But the reason I want to stop you now is because me and Paul Ponky were reading through these the other day. And one of the things that we sort of decided was a lot of these instructions seem at a very superficial glance quite reasonable, but as soon as you begin to examine them, they're either kind of vague or don't necessarily make sense. So in the conspiracy, ETC, on you go, man.
No, that's fine. The second one is guide reproduction wisely through fitness and diversity.
Right, now guide wisely. Well, that's helpful.
Yeah. Can I ask a question? Why wouldn't there be a Freemason symbol on a stonemason,
Yeah.
on a project in that grandeur? Why wouldn't
they're not shy about it otherwise? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a giant stone structure. Why wouldn't the stonemasons put his?
That's not a conspiracy theory. I expect that to be there.
The next one is unite humanity with a living new language.
Easy peasy. We tried that with, what was it, Esperanto, and that fell through after about 6 months.
Yeah. Rule passion, faith, tradition, in all things with tempered reason.
Paul Ponky, you said something brilliant to me about this. Go on.
It's just like, do a good job. Oh, okay. How do you be reasonable about everything all the time? What?
Yeah.
Why didn't I?
I appreciate the sentiment, but that's not practical advice.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely, that's a great idea, but how the hell do you actually do that? It's just like saying to someone, hey, be wise. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'll do what I can.
You've ruined my life. Oh, God.
I thought I was supposed to.
All right, so the next one, protect people and nation with fair laws and just courts.
Oh, fair laws. Oh, okay. Because mostly people don't bother with fair laws, do they?
Yeah.
Christ. It doesn't take years to decide what even one fair law is. Still, maybe with only 500,000 people, that'd be easier. I don't know.
500 million.
500 million.
Oh, sorry. 500 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, because 500 million people, they'll come to decisions so easily.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Just a quick vote. It's fine. It's fine.
And that new world order in their sinister practice.
Yep. Next one is let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court.
Oh my goodness.
Doesn't that contradict some of the earlier suggestions?
Little
Do
bit.
everything separately, but work together. You know what I mean?
Avoid petty laws and useless officials. Balance personal rights with social duties.
Half of that makes sense. The idea of balancing social, I mean, that actually is sensible advice in my mind, but the first half just is like, well, okay, kind of wishful thinking again. Look, I'm filling in all the gaps here. Has anyone else got any thoughts so far?
Thinking this is funny.
All right, the next one is prize truth, beauty, love, seek harmony with the infinite.
Okay.
I mean, what do you even say?
Yeah, it's like, okay.
That's actually appealing to me.
I Moulin Rouge.
Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature.
That's a duplicate of number one.
Yep. And the last one is balance personal rights with social duties.
Again, another repetition, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
So
say there
helpful.
was some plot for the new world order. It doesn't sound that bad to me.
Well,
right, yeah.
Exactly. And
Now-
then placed in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, in Georgia. But the interesting thing about this is they're written in 8 different languages. You got them in English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindi, Hebrew, Arabic, Chinese, and Russian.
So we're kind of hedging our bets on who survives after global apocalypse, then, right?
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
And on the
It would be
on the
terrifying if
top,
only the Danish survived, wouldn't it? And they're just looking at these stones going, I don't know what any of it means. It's pretty, but God knows.
and then on the top guidestone, they have written in Babylonian cuneiform, classical Greek, Sanskrit, and Egyptian hieroglyphics, which translates roughly to let these be guidestones to an age of reason.
Of course. Using dead languages strikes me as slightly foolish.
Now, some of one of the biggest conspiracies around this is a lot of people believe that the RC Christian is actually a reference to the Christian Rosencreutz, however you want to pronounce it, who was the founder of the Rosicrucians.
Oh, I see. That's fascinating. I hadn't actually picked up on that fact. That's brilliant. What do you know? Okay, look, we've reached the end of the subject, right? I want to go around and just see if anyone's got any final thoughts on what we've seen so far. Instead of going around one by one, I'm just going to give you a chance to scream now. So now's your chance. Ready?
Well, just look on my channel. I will be doing a video on these, going more in depth on the history and the conspiracies behind it. So keep an eye on out for that. I just wanted to throw this one out here. Say, hey, look what's coming. But yeah, there's a lot of people believe that. Well, a lot of the theorists believe that once we have this next war and Agenda 21 to decimate the population, the New World Order is going to use these guidestones to rule the world.
Oh yeah,
but they put them in some little hill in fucking Georgia.
Hey guys, 9 o'clock hero says that it's missing the emoji stone.
It's missing a lot of punctuation apparently too.
But Bobby raises an excellent point. We haven't had much of a chance so far because I've been trying to speed through all the subjects. But Carissa is, in theory, our chat mod this evening. I'm wondering if throughout the course of this, you've got any comments, questions, or things you'd like to raise that came from the audience.
I do. Okay, so we're gonna go back to the crystal section. There were some interesting comments in the shithead who shall not be named section, but I'm not going to go to those because we don't need to talk about him anymore. But the Turtle Moves says the only crystal vibrations that make sense are quartz, and that's as the clock That's as the clock in computers.
Oh yeah, good point.
Referring to the quartz that they use in so Match Rocket 1 said, I just Googled Tanzanite and nothing showed up about this tragedy. That's a tragedy. Very correct. It is. There should be more information online about that. Moving on to the space section. I'm gonna butcher these names. Niji says the gas giants might have a small solid core, but we don't know yet.
I have
1 minute debunk.
Pete, sorry, quickly, before you move on. Actually, I have a theory about that myself. Pete, you're going to be able to help me out on this. The pressures at the center of Jupiter are going to be so extraordinary that any solid that we can think of is going to be turned into liquid by the immense pressure, with the possible exception of the sort of crystals that form at the very center of the Earth, which cause our magnetic poles. I'm not sure if a solid core, if you like, is even necessarily possible on something that big. Is it, Pete? I mean, perhaps you can answer this.
Have you heard what we do know that is down there?
No.
It's called a liquid metallic hydrogen.
Yeah, sure.
And it's like a thick soup of hydrogen. Like it's so dense. It's like you could swim through it if you could survive the pressures and stuff. It's like a gooey, you could swim through it. And because of that, we think that if there is a core, it's got to be liquid of some kind.
You would think.
Whether it's the
only
iron
exception I know to this is the center of the Earth's core, in theory, because there is a point after which the pressure becomes so high that very, very rare sorts of crystals sort of form. And the current theory is that at the center of the Earth, there are these, imagine a Christmas tree shape, and then imagine a mirror of it underneath, two Christmas trees sort of pointing away from each other like this. That sort of north-south aligned set of crystals are what are thought to be the basis of the dynamo that generates our magnetic field. So all I've ever been able to think about a solid core to a gas giant is that might be the closest you get. But the idea of having rock down there at this ridiculous pressure seems a bit unlikely, doesn't it?
Yeah, there wouldn't be any kind of solid anything. There would be in whatever it is in liquid form.
Absolutely. Now, Carissa, I cut you off. Why don't you carry on?
It's okay.
I guess that's why.
A cheeky monkey, known as 1 minute debunk, went on there and said how many people have asked questions.
Oh.
Because I had to ask people questions. Ned McRant said, hey, has anyone heard about Betelgeuse about to go nova? And Aceto Maldonado actually, they had a really interesting conversation in chat about it. He said that yes, they watched a video about Betelgeuse dimming, and that I lost one of them. But it's an interesting conversation if you scroll up between Ned McRant and Anaceto Maldonado. So that's Maldonado. I had told you I was going to butcher these names.
This is this problem with astronomical time. Oh, sorry, Bobby, on you go, mate.
If Betelgeuse is about to go nova, it already has.
Oh, yeah, that's a quite good point. Absolutely.
That's absolutely correct. If it happened 600 years ago.
Nice. That's a good point. This is a problem that we have, which is that we don't really know how frequently we should expect to see nova and supernova go off in the sky in our local area. We've seen them before, but ultimately we're not sure, because even though it might be fairly frequent on the order of every 300 to 500 years, that's way longer than a human lifespan, and it's taken the last 100 years to get to a point where we can view this stuff. So we don't really know whether or not we can expect it. This dimming of Betelgeuse may be a cyclic thing, that it's going to go through for several hundred more years or even several thousand more years before it goes nova, or it might just be seconds away, right?
Well, the space of 1,000 years is pretty much seconds away.
Well, exactly.
In an astronomical scale.
Right.
Indeed. Brilliant. Okay, well, Carissa, have you got any more comments or questions? I cut you off again, sorry.
Oh, no, you're okay. Punchy, referring to the Voynich manuscript, Punchy said, I thought it was Chris P. Bacon that wrote it. I thought
Punchy, you are my favorite audience member, mate. We love Punchy here. If you don't know him, chat to the guy. He's an absolute legend. Thank you for coming to the show. We hope to see you every week. The guy's my hero, honestly.
Hi,
Every time I
Punchy.
see him, I've got to say hello.
Bye, Punchy.
And 9 o'clock hero actually catched him, was saying it was dropped by an alien running to catch his ride home. I thought that was really
It's funny because there is a theory that it's actually from a different dimension.
What?
Ooh.
Yeah.
We use the term theory
Oh,
quite
see?
broadly there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Carissa, I keep cutting you off tonight, but I just want to chat to our audience. What else have we got?
A lot. Actually, there's so much that has been going in since I started talking about them. Trying to find Dark Knight Apologetic says, I believe the Stones, the Georgia Stones, are a trolling joke from the past to mess with conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, there's that one too. That I've seen that theory on it too.
Hey, I want to say a
And,
quick apology to Dark Knight Apologetics, actually, because he was very distraught when Mr. Jimbles and Mr. Snowdrop died. I'm terribly sorry. It was a truck. What were we supposed to do? He crushed him completely flat. But thank you ever so much for your sympathy on that one. Sorry, Carissa, on you go.
Okay. So Ned McRant added Sebastate and said, "What the fuck do we need a Rosencrantz?" As far as the Rosicrucians, the didn't Masons build the structures, then enclose their spirit in the keystone of the building? No idea. Ned McRant said there are more people speaking fucking Klingon than people speak Esperanto. Okay.
Comment of the week. Well done. I love it. Thank you.
Oh my God.
Brilliant.
Everyone in the chat's just who tonight. They're absolutely hilarious. I love it.
Are you
please get a new cat.
There was one more thing I wanted to bring up with the Guidestones. Is there is a stone set on just to the south of the Guidestones themselves is supposed to be a time capsule buried underneath it, but there's no date when it was laid or when it's supposed to be unearthed. So.
Oh, nice. So they're trolling the future then. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Memeing
I
on
wonder if they've been... look, anyway, look, this has been a fantastic episode today. I think we've pretty much run out of time and we've run out of comment, but we can't go through every single comment that's come from the audience. But look, put it like this. For people who had comments about Alex Jones, for instance, who wanted to get said, make sure you get it into the comment section. We're sure to get replies. If you've got anything else you want to add, make sure you add that as well. Ponky's making some frantic signals. Copy what he says.
Pointing to the comment section. I do have a comment. I have a couple comments. Yeah. First is, I don't know if you noticed this, ETC, but there's like a skull peeking out your bookshelves. I think it's looking at you.
Back in the corner? Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a rain stick. My dad has the exact same one. It's a rain stick.
Oh, okay.
This one?
Oh, that's cool.
Oh.
Yeah, I got this. We went to this. The whole family, my mom, my dad, my sisters, me, the wife, the kids all went to the zoo, and I was sick and I was having a real bad time walking. So I picked this cane up at the zoo that I walked around the zoo with.
Oh man! See, now I walk with a cane generally because I've got various issues. But the point is that, like, I now wish I had your cane. That's awesome. I need to walk around with a skull on the top of mine. That is bitching, man.
That's a shrunken head. Get you one with a shrunken head on it, Jim.
Yeah, if I remember, I think. If I remember, I don't remember. I think this one was actually made in Africa.
Is that a real person's head? Like a
no, it's.
Are they dead? Have they been rescued? Or are they still? Check for a pulse.
Man, help him.
Check for a pulse.
Head, man.
Oh man! All right, look, okay, guys, this has been too much fun, but I think we've covered pretty much everything. So I'm going to remind everyone to do the usual like and subscribe. It's pretty much let's see. Well, I've got script here.
Share.
That's not what I was supposed to say. Let's see, what have I got? Like and subscribe. It's pretty much what lets channels like this survive and prosper. That's true, actually. Well, if people in the audience haven't liked and subscribed, please do so. Let your friends know that this is on. With the new format, I think we've found a little bit more of an interesting way to approach some of these subjects. So just get the message out. We want to see more people come in and see some of the crazy stuff that we're going to talk about. We've got a Patreon, but we've been terribly lazy. I haven't really done anything useful with it. Rest assured, we will be sort of doing something. It is on its way. We will have some merchandise in theory available at some point. But again, we've just been so busy trying to make the show work that, if you are interested in becoming a patron or getting some merchandise, don't panic. That's going to happen in the future at some point. But right now, we just want to see people come in and enjoy the show. Let's see. Don't forget to check out all the links in the description on your way out for all our sources. There's a load of interesting stuff. It's rabbit holes galore. You're going to be interested with that, as well as links to the new creators and our guests. Housekeeping's done, so I think I'm going to fly around the table one more time, see if anyone's got anything they want to shill out for before we say goodbye. So first up is our revered and esteemed guest, ETC, formerly End the Conspiracy. Any final thoughts, any shilling you want to do, and a chance to say goodbye?
Well, the only thing I've got is just keep an eye on my channel. Lots of changes coming for the new year. They're a new show topic. Thanks for Pete Berube for the name. He come up with it last week. The facepalm factor.
Yeah.
So we're moving away from a specific video and looking at a topic and pulling clips from different videos on that topic. I think it went really well last night. Jim Bojo and a lot of people told me they liked it, so we'll continue on with that. I do have some videos in the future, kind of give you an example what the show is going to be starting, what the channel is going to be going on. Is I've got 3 videos in the works: the top 10 creatures of supernatural, the creatures of Penny Dreadful, and Bobby's going to love this one. The top 10 X-Files conspiracies that turned out to be true.
Yeah.
So yes. So we're going to be moving around that kind of thing. And if you guys don't quite understand what I'm talking about when I'm talking about certain subject, take flat Earth. Okay, so we're going to look at flat Earth this week, but we're going to look at why people don't think gravity exists. So we'll go through and we'll pull like from that guy or from Thompson and Roberts, and we'll pull the examples from each one of them of why they say gravity doesn't work. And then we'll talk about those. Instead of picking one video, we're going to spread it up.
Congratulations on finding a way to make flat Earth interesting again. People were talking about how incredibly dull it is these days. There's nothing left, but you've actually managed to find something which people would want to watch. So definitely get over to his channel, like, subscribe, watch all the videos. As you said, I had to come in late, unfortunately, to ETC's strike. I was about half an hour from the end. I had a blast, right? Just the last 30 minutes. I can only imagine what I lost in the first hour and a half. You absolutely need to get over there, subscribe right now. Watch the videos, leave comments, make sure you interact, because this guy needs to get big. I'm absolutely convinced of it. And the conspiracy, sorry, ETC, I keep getting this wrong. I've known you so long. The name change is screwing with my brain.
That's fine.
Once again, you've lent us some credibility that we would have had to live without. So thank you. I'm sure you're going to be back on the show, and I look forward to seeing you again. With that in mind, I'm now going to turn to Anthony Bailey. We haven't heard from you that much since the very beginning of the show, mate. You had a little chance halfway through. Have you got any sort of comments you want to make about the thing? Any shilling you've got? The usual business.
Well, shilling, I don't have any comments. It's all done now. So.
Well, I think first of all, thanks for your video at the beginning, though, because Gary Isle of Wight, or IOW, does some great content, particularly that tribute towards his, I think it was his brother, wasn't it? If you hadn't brought that to us, I don't think anyone would know, and you made a funny video too. So look, thanks again for coming. We really appreciate it. Next, Carissa Brock, thank you for being our chat bard, and thank you for bringing that mining information to us. Have you got any final comments and thoughts and a chance to say goodbye?
No, just anybody who's watching, either now or watching the reviewing later on, please leave comments on how you like the new format, what topics of the week that you'd like to see us discuss. If there's anything that is specific, that's specialized, let us know. And just give us feedback. That's what we do. We thrive on. We're constantly talking about different things we can do differently, things that are working. So any input from you guys is greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing a level of professionalism back to the show that we've all lost through laughing. Brilliant. Okay. Robert Leger III, producer extraordinaire. Hello, Squire. You got any final thoughts for the day? Anything you want to share? As Red's rhetoric would say what you've got to say and get the fuck out.
Nothing much to shill. Marvel Girl has a debate coming up in a couple weeks with Ken Hovind. Still, he got moved again because of a miscommunication.
That is always an excuse.
It seems to always happen, right? Anyway, I've got nothing else other than that. Thanks, and this
Thanks
was a
for
great.
joining us,
I
man.
really enjoyed the format today, and hopefully we can keep this going.
Absolutely. I mean, thanks, Bobby. You've managed to stay on top of this so well. Today we had about 30 videos or something ridiculous you had to stay on top of. And yeah, I think this might have been our slickest show yet. So I want to give a big thanks to you and everyone in the audience who's listening now. Give them a big thumbs up. Even if all you do is press a 0 to show that you agree, I want you to give Bobby some love right now. You understand me? Because he is making this show look good. Next, Pop Punky. What about you? Final thoughts, chance to shill, chance to say goodbye.
It's a shame the Georgia Guidestones don't have a Voynich store. Anyway, aside from that, I'm running a sneaky game of werewolf if enough people turn up.
Oh yeah. Look, no, he's right. For those of you who aren't in the going critical public server, I guess we'll get a link or an invite or something. Someone in charge of the chat, please make sure you get a link into that if you can, because you need to get in there, join the lobby, and play a game of werewolf. Apostate, Paul Punky, give us a nutshell version of what werewolf is, because I think it's great fun.
It's a social deduction game where some people are evil and everyone else is kind of stupid, just like in real life. And the evil people like to kill the not evil people, and the not evil people flail around and try and execute people until they hit on the right
End up
spot.
killing themselves.
There's a lot of, there's a bit of friendly fire, there's a lot of deductions, accusations, a little bit of passion, and it's frightfully fun.
It sounds simple, but you end up getting so invested, and you'll get so mad over the silliest thing you do. Check it out. You'll see what I'm saying.
If no
This
one
is
got
a
mad,
brilliant
then it
opportunity
wouldn't be
to
a good
practice
game.
your lying chops, right? This is a bit of advice I want to give to anyone who wants to play this game. Even if you're a villager, right? And villagers have no particular special powers other than to, during the daytime, kill whoever they vote on, which is fun in and of itself. Just try pretending that you're a wolf, or pretend that you're a seer, or pretend you're a special character, just to shake up the pot a bit and see how things go, right?
You can figure it all out if you follow people's reactions and see how they vote. You can work it out. It's doable, but it's not as easy as it sounds. So we're running that in Discord right after this show if people turn up.
Absolutely.
All you need is the microphone. It's very easy.
You don't need to worry about the rules either. You can pick it up as you go along. Definitely. Sorry, Bobby, go on, mate.
I'm going to put the link in the chat.
Oh, you legend. Thank you very much, mate. Yeah, people keep asking us, what are the rules? And they're shying away from it, and they want to watch a bit before they play. There's no need. Dive right in and take part. You'll pick it up so quickly, and it's just a hilarious amount of fun. I love it completely. So, I don't think I added a link to the description. This is something else I'm going to have to go back and pop in there. You need to get over there. I promise you. If you ignore all my implications to check the links, to like, to subscribe, all of that stuff, follow this one thing. Get to our server, play some werewolf right now. It's a blast. You will not regret it. Now, last on the list, we've got Pete Berube, our new panelist. How have you enjoyed your first show as an official member of the Going Critical team?
As always, it's a blast. Yeah, I want to thank everybody for having me now as a panelist on the show. So good things to come, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And thank you for bringing that top 10 today. You've really educated us all a little bit, as well as bring us a lot of fun. Any last chance to chill, say goodbye, anything else you want to do before we move on?
Yeah, just my main thing. It's Sci-Fi Sundays on my YouTube channel. Just play terribly awesome old sci-fi. Hopefully public domain. I got one last week that wasn't quite public domain. So I got shut down about halfway through. But this week went just fine. It was from 1942. So more terrible movies on the way.
Oh, definitely get over and watch that. This was a Bela Lugosi classic. Now, if you don't know him, he worked with Ed Wood a little bit in his later years. So even if you can't be there live, you should go back and watch these things. It's just such a lot of fun. Now, I think that's the whole panel. Is there anyone I've missed out? I think we've got to everyone.
Yeah.
Who did I miss? Oh, it's the prostate, of course. There you are. Yeah. Sorry, mate. What am I doing? It's the prostate. No. Sorry, mate. Last chance.
Damn it, Jim.
Damn it, Jim. No worries at all. Actually, I don't have anything to show right now. I'm not working anything on my channel at the moment. I just want to thank everyone for showing up. I really enjoy this new format. I'm looking forward to this show. So, and yeah, come join us for Werewolf. It's going to be a blast.
Absolutely. All right. Sorry about that, mate. Thanks very much for coming again. I feel terrible now. Look, that's it. Thanks again for coming. We're going to be back next week with more interesting stuff to sink your nesses into. In the meantime, I hope you have a good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are. I've been Jim Bojo, obviously. I haven't got anything to chill out for except this show. So just sort of come back next week. We've been going critical. I think it's goodbye from me and it's goodbye from them. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Be water, my friend.
Bye.
Thanos.
Thank you, Thanos.
Thanos.
Come play werewolf.
Werewolf.
Yeah, play werewolf.
Oh.
Ow.